Imagine chilling in your dorm room, thinking you're home alone. Suddenly the door swings open, and there's your best friend, Jake, stark naked. Everything shifts in that instant, the air thick with laughter, awkwardness, and the unforgettable look on his face. But what happened next? That's the part no one saw coming. Dorm life teaches you a valuable lesson. Never truly let your guard down. It might feel like your personal sanctuary, your home away from home, but you're sharing it. Someone could barge in at any second. I learned this the hard way. It was a typical Tuesday. I'd just survived a grueling day of classes, capped off by a 2-hour chemistry lab that felt like an eternity. Jake, my roommate, was supposedly out for the evening at a late-night physics study session. Freedom, at last. I had the dorm to myself, ready to relish the rare, peaceful solitude. The room was quiet, illuminated only by the soft glow of my desk lamp and the ambient string lights I'd hung above my bed. I chucked my backpack in the corner, kicked off my shoes, and thought, finally, some peace and quiet. So, naturally, I did what any self-respecting college student would do, shed my clothes for maximum comfort, and sprawled out on my bed. Just me, my phone, and a well-deserved moment of pure relaxation. No roommates, no interruptions. Pure bliss. Little did I know that bliss was about to be interrupted. I'd been lounging there for about 10, maybe 15 minutes, mindlessly scrolling through my phone without a care in the world. I was so relaxed, I practically forgot I was in a shared dorm room, not some luxurious hotel suite. Then I heard it. The distinct click of a key turning in the lock. My heart skipped a beat. I froze, convinced I'd misheard. Jake wasn't due back until late, and we never had surprise visitors. It was an unspoken dorm life rule. Always give a heads up. But just as I was rationalizing the sound, the door creaked open. I didn't even have time to reach for my clothes. My phone slipped from my grasp, and all I could do was watch as the door swung inward, revealing Jake's stunned face. He walked in completely oblivious, looking down at his backpack, fumbling with something. Then he looked up. Our eyes met, and his expression morphed from casual to utter shock. There was a pause. A long, awkward, excruciatingly awkward pause. My face burned crimson. Jake just stood there, eyes wide, as if trying to decide if this was reality or some bizarre nightmare. In that brief, agonizing moment, I was speechless. I didn't know whether to dive under the covers or laugh at the absurdity of it all. One thing was certain. My peaceful solitude was shattered. There we were, me, exposed in all my glory, Jake, frozen in the doorway like he'd stumbled onto a horror movie set. Neither of us spoke. We were locked in a silent standoff of unbelievable awkwardness. Finally, I broke the silence. Somehow I stammered, hey man, you're back early. Brilliant, right? Not even an apology, just a casual, hey, as if I wasn't completely exposed. Jake blinked, his eyes darting everywhere but at me. I could practically hear his brain short-circuiting. He cleared his throat. Yeah, the study session got canceled. He paused, searching for words. I didn't realize you'd be so comfortable. My face grew hotter. I attempted a laugh, a casual shrug, as if I wasn't mortified. Yeah, well, I didn't expect you back this early, I said, trying to sound composed despite my racing thoughts. He nodded awkwardly, shuffling his feet. I knew I had to break the tension, do something, anything. But every time I opened my mouth, nothing came out. I just lay there, trying to salvage some shred of dignity. Realizing lying there wasn't helping, I had to move. I needed to do something, anything, to make this less insane. So in a moment of panic, I reached for the closest thing to cover myself, my blanket, which of course was just out of reach. Picture this. Me, half sitting up, awkwardly stretching, while still trying to maintain some semblance of modesty. It was like a slow-motion train wreck, and Jake was still there, staring, looking as shocked as ever. I couldn't tell if he was horrified or trying not to laugh. Finally, I snatched the blanket, pulling it over myself, thinking I'd regained some semblance of control over this ridiculous situation. Clearing my throat, I tried for a casual tone. Sorry about that. I didn't, expect company. Jake finally cracked a small, uneasy smile. Yeah, no, totally understand. I thought you'd at least be, decent. He laughed, but it was a forced laugh, the kind meant to diffuse the awkwardness but failing miserably. He was clearly just as embarrassed as I was. Hey, you told me you'd be out late, I retorted, deflecting my embarrassment. I was just taking advantage of the, privacy. Jake nodded, scratching the back of his neck, still avoiding eye contact. Right, my bad. Should have knocked or something. And there it was. We both realized the absurdity of it all. Knocking. We'd never knocked since becoming roommates. It was an unspoken agreement, a comfort we'd developed. We were best friends after all. Who needed to knock? We both chuckled at that, the tension easing slightly. Even with the laughter, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between us, however subtly. How could things go back to normal after this? It's not exactly covered in the dorm roommate handbook. Just as I thought the awkwardness was receding, Jake glanced down and muttered, if I didn't know better, I'd think you planned this as some weird prank. He laughed, but there was a hint of seriousness in his voice. I rolled my eyes. Oh yeah, I totally orchestrated this whole thing just to make you uncomfortable, I said sarcastically. You caught me. I was hoping you'd come back early so I could traumatize you for life. Jake grinned, his expression softening. Honestly, man, it's no big deal. We've been friends forever. Just maybe next time, a little warning? I laughed, nodding. Deal. And maybe next time you give me a heads up when your plans change. He shrugged, giving a sheepish smile. All right, fair enough. For a moment we sat in silence, the awkwardness fading into something almost comfortable. He was still processing everything, but there was a mutual understanding. We were both silently agreeing to let it go. But I still wondered if things would truly return to normal. Could we just laugh this off and pretend it never happened? Then Jake broke the silence, grinning. So, do I get to tell this story to our friends, or is this just between us? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, absolutely not. This stays here. Dorm room secrets, remember? I tried to sound firm, but he was already laughing. I knew I'd never live this down. We'd finally managed to laugh it off, kind of. Jake kept giving me sly grins, itching to make a joke. I was trying to move past it, but Jake wasn't letting me off that easy. I saw that mischievous glint in his eye, the same look he'd get before pulling a prank in high school, or whenever he had a new way to tease me. I dreaded whatever he was about to say, but I knew he wouldn't hold back. So, he began, drawing out the word, savoring it. Was this like a regular thing for you? Just, hanging out au naturel whenever I'm gone? I groaned, rolling my eyes. No, Jake, it's not a regular thing. I just thought I'd have the place to myself tonight. I tried to keep a straight face, but he kept pushing. Right. So is this like a new relaxation method or something? Should I be worried about coming home now? He laughed, crossing his arms and leaning against his bed, clearly enjoying this. Should I expect to find you lounging around like that every time I walk in? I smirked, deciding to play along. Oh, definitely, every time you leave. I'm just in here living my best life, completely free from the shackles of clothing. You should totally be worried. He laughed again, but I could see him trying to compose himself. Hey, no judgment here. Just maybe give a guy a warning next time, a little heads-up text or something. I chuckled, shaking my head. Believe me, after tonight, I'm going to be locking that door every time you're gone. No more accidental surprises. For a second, it seemed like that was the end of it. But Jake couldn't resist. He got that look again, the one that signaled a new, ridiculous idea brewing. I braced myself. Actually, he started, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. What if we made this like a dorm rule? No knocking, just pure, raw, unannounced entry at all times. Makes things interesting, don't you think? I burst out laughing, shaking my head. Oh, no way. After tonight, I think I'm perfectly happy with the standard knock before entering rule, thank you very much. Jake shrugged, still grinning. Your loss. Think of the adventures you're missing out on. Dorm life could get real interesting. I rolled my eyes. but a laugh escaped me despite the awkwardness. It was strangely comforting, a reminder of the foundation of my friendship with Jake. He always knew how to make me laugh, even when things were incredibly uncomfortable, and this situation definitely took the prize. Yet, I sensed he wasn't done teasing me. His occasional glances hinted at a final punchline he was waiting to deliver. I dreaded it, but couldn't help anticipating his next remark. Finally, he turned to me and said, "You know, you've kind of set a new standard for roommate bonding. Most people don't reach this level of intimacy in a friendship." Letting out a dramatic sigh, I feigned exasperation. "So, this is what bonding looks like now? Good to know." Jake shrugged with a playful grin. "Hey, I'm just saying, you really embrace the whole make yourself at home thing. Can't say I wasn't impressed." Yeah, laugh it up," I retorted, fighting back a smile. "Just remember this stays between us. No need to broadcast my freedom-loving habits to the world." He raised his hands in mock offense. "Who? Me? I would never. Your secret's safe with me. For now." There it was, the unspoken threat, the promise of future ammunition. With Jake, it was inevitable. He would milk this for all it was worth. Surprisingly, I wasn't as bothered as I expected. This ridiculous encounter felt like a bizarre bonding experience, the unexpected kind that strengthens a friendship. One thing was certain: if he tried to one-up me or pull a prank, he was in for some serious payback. As the evening progressed, things calmed down, and we fell into our usual routines. Jake pretended to study at his desk while I scrolled through my phone, trying to forget the incident. But I kept catching him looking at me, like he had something to say but couldn't find the words. Finally, I broke the silence. "All right, what? You've been staring at me for the past 15 minutes. Just spit it out." Jake shrugged, feigning nonchalance, but his expression was different. "Nah, it's nothing. I was just thinking, we've been friends forever. It just, I don't know, made me realize how close we are." I raised an eyebrow, taken aback by his sudden sincerity. Sentimental displays weren't typical for Jake, so I knew this was something he'd been pondering. "Yeah, man, we've been through a lot," I replied cautiously, unsure where he was headed. "But why is that coming up now?" He hesitated, looking at his hands before continuing. "I guess it's just... well, it's not every day you see your best friend like that." He chuckled, breaking the tension. "But seriously, it made me think. There aren't many people I'd be comfortable with after something that awkward. I guess I'm just realizing how much we can laugh off together. Makes me wonder if there's anything we can't get through." His words surprised me. Jake was my best friend, but we rarely delved into deep conversations. He was right, though. This whole thing was too awkward to discuss with anyone else. But it didn't feel as strange with him. It actually made me feel closer to him, like we had this unbreakable bond that no embarrassing moment could shatter. "Yeah, I get it," I said, nodding. "Guess we've seen each other at our worst, so there's not much left to hide, huh?" Jake grinned. And for a moment, everything felt normal. Then he leaned back, a thoughtful look on his face, like he was debating whether to share something else. I gave him a curious glance. "What? I can tell there's something you're holding back." He sighed, then gave a small smile, like he was about to reveal a secret. All right. Don't laugh. But honestly, I always thought I'd be the one embarrassing myself first." I looked surprised. "Wait, you? Mr. Cool? Calm and collected over here?" He rolled his eyes, a blush creeping up his neck. "Look, I know I don't exactly act like it, but I'm not as unshakable as you think. Sometimes I'm just as clueless as anyone else. Seeing you like that, I don't know. It was kind of a reminder that I don't have to always have my act together, at least not with you." I nodded, understanding. This was Jake's way of saying he didn't have to maintain a facade around me, just like I didn't have to pretend to have it all figured out around him. There was comfort in that, knowing we could be ourselves, even if that sometimes meant landing in the most bizarre, awkward situations. "Good to know," I smirked. "So the next time I walk in on you doing something embarrassing, we'll be even." Jake laughed, giving me a mock-serious look. If you ever catch me like that, I expect you to be way cooler about it than I was tonight. No staring, no stammering, just act like nothing happened. I grinned. Oh, no promises. I'll be milking that for all it's worth, just like you. He laughed, and for a moment the awkwardness faded into a shared memory we could laugh about later. But then his expression turned serious. Actually, can I ask you something? He said, his tone shifting. Sure, I replied, intrigued. What's up? He took a deep breath, looking almost nervous. Do you ever feel like, I don't know, like you have to pretend to be someone else around other people? I blinked, surprised by the question. Sometimes, I guess. It depends. I mean, everyone acts a little different around different people, right? He nodded, but his eyes held a distant look. Yeah, but I mean like with us. I feel like I don't have to pretend, even when something crazy happens like tonight. I know we'll just be real with each other, no judgment. It just feels good knowing you've got someone who's got your back, no matter what. I could tell this meant a lot to him, more than he was letting on. Hearing him say it made me realize I felt the same way. This whole situation, as awkward and embarrassing as it was, had somehow brought us closer. Yeah, man, I said, nodding. I know what you mean. No matter what happens, we're good. This is, well, part of the deal when you're best friends, right? He grinned, nodding back. Exactly. Guess we're in it for the long haul, huh? Guess so, I said, laughing a little. We sat in comfortable silence, letting it sink in. This single, awkward incident had shifted something between us. We'd gone from just friends to something deeper, not in a way that changed who we were, but in a way that strengthened our bond, like we'd shared an experience no one else could understand. Looking at Jake, now back to pretending to study, I felt grateful. Grateful he'd walked in at the worst possible moment. Grateful he'd handled it with humor and understanding, and grateful that no matter what, he'd be there. That's what real friends do. They see you at your most vulnerable and embarrassing, and they still have your back. Maybe that's what makes it all worth it. The weird, awkward moments that end up meaning more than you ever expected. The next morning, everything felt different, but in a good way. Jake and I had crossed an invisible line. We'd shared the kind of awkward moment that can either destroy a friendship or strengthen it, and somehow, it had brought us closer. I woke up to find Jake already awake, scrolling through his phone and sipping coffee. He smirked, probably replaying last night's chaos in his head. Sleep well? He asked with a mischievous grin. I rolled my eyes, grabbing my pillow and throwing it at him. Don't even start. He laughed, dodging the pillow. All right, I'll keep my mouth shut. For now. We both knew he'd be teasing me about this for weeks, but that was okay. In a way, I wanted him to. If he ever stopped making fun of me, it would mean things had truly changed, and I wasn't ready for that. As I got ready for the day, I felt a strange sense of calm, like everything was as it should be. The whole incident, as embarrassing as it was, had reminded me of something important. Friendship isn't just about the good times. It's about laughing through the cringeworthy situations and knowing you have each other's backs no matter what. Jake stretched, leaned back in his chair, and looked over at me. So, just to be clear, are we agreeing this stays between us? Like, for eternity? I laughed. Yes, for eternity. Dorm room packed. This is never to be spoken of outside these four walls. He gave a mock salute. Dorm room packed, got it. But knowing Jake, I knew he'd probably drop hints and make sly comments whenever he felt like watching me squirm. And weirdly, I was okay with that. This was one of those ridiculous memories we'd laugh about years from now, reminiscing about how unbelievably awkward it all was. As we headed out for breakfast, Jake nudged me and said, "Just so you know, you're never living this down. And the next time you walk in on me, I expect a full dramatic reaction to even the score." I laughed, shaking my head. Yeah. Don't worry, I'll give you the reaction of a lifetime." And with that, we walked to the dining hall, joking and trading playful jabs, just like always. The awkwardness was gone, replaced by something stronger. We'd taken an embarrassing situation and turned it into a shared memory, a bond that no amount of teasing could break, because that's what real friends do. They see you at your most vulnerable, they laugh with you and at you, and they make you feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Hey, if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, make sure to subscribe. We've got plenty of wild stories coming your way that you won't want to miss. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.